what it mean to be the best. Riding foes, feeling unimpressed. Make me reminisce, throwing bows, bend the corner, set my mind up on the goal. All I know is stay down, bad, I'm the goal. Okay, feel like the best, the great. Now there ain't no debate. Yeah. Okay, feel like the best, the great. Now there ain't no debate. Yeah. I ain't gotta say much. Know the boy got a touch. Another win for the rush. Another win for the rush. See me once and got a crush. See you twice and that's enough. Get the ring sized up.
Hello. Welcome in. Tell the Truth, episode 88. We have a special guest coming for you guys later on, as you see in the title. But for right now, we got DG, we got CJ, we got the Chiefs kind of sort of showing up for preseason week 2. In my opinion, they kind of didn't. Boy, howdy, did nobody look like nobody wanted to be out there. My
we
goodness.
really gotta play?
Seattle,
Like,
raining. Y'all got it. I'm cool.
At 8 p.m. on a Friday night.
Right.
Did we have to?
Right.
Didn't look like anybody particularly wanted to play the team, but
Get this
certainly
over.
not the defense or the linebackers. But of course, we have some other news to get into, and some unfortunate news on a lot of fronts. And obviously, we've got some special things to talk about later on with our guest. Yes, Jason Dunn will be by later on of Chiefs Concerns, and we'll be happy to dig into where this Chiefs roster stands, and kind of since the last time we talked to you guys, which was basically 2 weeks ago at this point. We've had some turnover. The biggest of which being Duke Uzama, obviously 2022 Chiefs first round pick, has had his season end due to a hamstring strain, which it's going to be a pretty severe strain to end your season. But all things considered, that is the reality of the situation. He's been officially placed on IR, and that will end what, in my opinion, was a make or break season for him to prove that he wasn't a bust. And that is it's an unfortunate situation, but now his 2025 is over, and you say that his 2026 roster spot is in serious jeopardy. And honestly, the only saving grace is the fact that they've got 2 defensive ends on the roster on 1-year deals as it currently stands, and Mike Dana and Charles Minnie, who they will rely on heavily once again to help out with the pass rush alongside Chris Jones, of course. We also have some Rashee Rice news that we haven't gotten into as far as his suspension being put on hold, or at least him now having hearing date with an independent arbitrator due to the NFL apparently proposing a 10-game suspension, which is a number that is astronomical and does not have any relevant precedent to go off of. It just seems like it just kind of came out of nowhere. As a result, yeah.
It's you a real one if you stayed up for that.
Yeah.
Boy.
I said this. You're a real
didn't.
sicko. You're a real sicko if you stayed up long enough to see that
Shout out to
entire game.
Caleb. You a real Chief fan, bro. I fell asleep.
You're a real sicko. You're a real sicko if you stayed up. If you stayed up with me and watched the end of that game, you're a real sicko for sure, bro. Yeah, that was crazy. That Sky Moore punt return. Shout out to Sky Moore. We'll always have the 2022 touchdown in the Super Bowl. Somebody said he hasn't caught a game in an NFL sanctioned event since preseason of 2023, which is nuts. It's just crazy. Wow. Anyway, shout out to Scott Moore. And Felix, no, we're gonna go to Rashee Rice real quick. Rashee Rice has a hearing set for September 30th. They can reach a deal before then to have his suspension managed, but as of right now, it appears that Rashee Rice is on track to at least be available for the first 4 games of the season that proceed that September 30th. Obviously, in Brazil versus the Chargers to open the year, home to the Eagles, on the road in New York, well, technically New Jersey, against the Giants in MetLife Stadium, and then back home against the Baltimore Ravens right before that September 30th date. So we'll see what ends up happening. Again, independent arbitrator making their case. 10 games is insanity as far as that's concerned. It doesn't make any sense. Mind you, Deshaun Watson had 11 games. Justin Tucker just got 10 games. And we know what those people have been accused of / did. So, again, Rashee Rice deserves suspension. Stupid, reckless action, put people in harm's way, and has taken the remorse and responsibility accordingly. But yeah, 10 games is insane. It doesn't have any precedent. So obviously they have chosen to fight that through the NFLPA, which is his right. And as a result, that is what is going to end up happening. And we'll talk about that a little bit later with Jason as well for some of the ramifications of that. DG and CJ, I'm going to ask you this question before we'll have Jason pop in just for this standpoint. There's been a strong reaction, in my opinion, to what we saw in preseason week 2 specifically, in which kind of the defense got dominated. I shouldn't say, yeah, the defense got dominated. Offensive line maybe wasn't as impressive people would have wanted, specifically Suamataia part of it as well. As it currently stands today, running back room, I guess wide receiver room with the Rashee Rice possibility of a midseason suspension. Tight end room, though I think it's more positive than negative. Offensive line, of course, with Suamataia. And you can also include Jawan Taylor, I guess, at right tackle if you so choose. The entirety of the defense. Where does your greatest concern lie with this Chiefs roster as we are one preseason game away from starting the season?
Concern. You mean like what position is what you were saying, right?
Number one concern. It could be a position, it could be a player, it could be a we'll go with.
I mean, I won't. I guess the linebacker position right now is could be a bit of concern, especially
like LB3 or like LB2.
Yeah, once you get to the depth part of it, what Nick Bolton's gonna obviously do for you. What Drew Tranquil's obviously gonna be able to do for you. Leo Chanel as well too. I think that fourth or fifth linebacker is kind of in question at this point. If one of those guys goes down, you're kind of scared to have to put a rookie in Jeff Bossa or maybe even a guy like Jack Conklin out for significant snaps. We know we've seen Jack Conklin be able to play significant snaps before, but from what we've seen in Seattle the other day, it just didn't look all that great. So I think that would be a driving concern for certain people. I was gonna say the defensive end position, just more so Felix based. It's just kind of sad to see that a guy who you had like really high hopes for, a guy who's a great guy, man. Especially off the field, but just kind of not have that luck of being able for things to be able to come to fruition for him in the league at this point right now, and the lack of production that you've received out of a first round pick is just kind of really disappointing to this point, especially when you've been, whole city, him being from here, everybody's pretty much rooting for him. But yeah, to see him go down is just kind of rather disappointing at this point. So I think those are probably the main two concerns right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm gonna ask you the same thing, CJ. I can't be as concerned about the linebackers as I want to from the depth perspective, because reality is like they haven't played their starters for like Leo got a little bit of time, but really against the Seahawks they just ran away from 54, which makes perfect sense. They should have, and obviously it went very well success. But it's like the depth linebacker concern is a concern, but it's not one that I can really get there with. I think Jeffrey Bassett right now could step in and be the weak side linebacker if he had to. Like if Drew Tranquil goes down, I think that Jeffrey could step in and do so. If Nick Bolton went down, then Drew would step into the mic, and then Jeffrey would come in and be the will. And I think it's okay. If you lose two of those guys, then you're in real trouble, obviously. And I think that's very clear. And I still think that there'll be opportunities on the waiver wire to address that. We'll get into the offensive line conversation, but to me, the biggest thing is just the secondary pass rush, because it didn't look better for Omar Norman-Lott, and obviously he left the game hurt. I haven't seen anything from Ashton Gelati. Felix is now done for the season, and maybe Charles Minnie, who just doesn't care right now. He just hasn't shown anything yet, which is fine if he doesn't care. As long and I truly believe that the guy that we saw in 2022 is there. So like, if he doesn't care, it's fine. But like, or 2023, I should say. If he doesn't care, it's fine. But it's just we haven't seen it yet. Jerry Tillery, I think, can help out, which is nice. But as of right now, you are relying heavily on a step from George Kalafdis, Mike Dana, Charles Omenihu, and Jerry Tillery, in my opinion, to really provide that pass rush juice outside of Chris Jones. And that's not the most comforting place to be, because I'm afraid that they've already mishandled Omar Norman-Lott, which is scary. Obviously, Felix is done. and I haven't seen much from Ashton to make me feel all that hopeful. So that's kind of the concerning thing for me as a secondary pass rush outside of Chris Jones, because this defense is already relying upon helping out its back end, not in the sense that the back end is bad, but that that there are some obvious things in which they would like to be better at. Within that safety room, secondary cornerback help behind Trent McDuffie. But if it's going to be Chris Jones and nobody's at this point, like it looks like it might be, it's going to be tough. I think it's going to be tough sledding. CJ, what is your biggest concern right now as we approach the season?
Defensively, yeah, if anything, not too many question marks. I mean, honestly, defensively, I like the depth that we built. I didn't expect much from Ashton. Much early on. I wanted him to develop, so I was expecting him to make, if he had any impact on us, it would be more so into the season. So not too much there for that. I like the way the secondary is progressing. Everybody's healthy. Everybody's ready to roll. Hate to see Deion go down. Definitely prayers up to him. Hopefully come back as soon as possible from that Achilles injury. But I like the depth that we built that safety room, but bringing back guys like Mike Edwards. Obviously, it was good to see Christian Fulton get out there and get some reps and be healthy during practice and during game action as well. So I like the depth that we have at those two positions. So the biggest thing for me would definitely be D tackle, like you said, Mac. Just want to see Omar and Tillery just be serviceable guys. Obviously, we want to see them be impact players. Obviously, we know the guys always get better as the season goes on. So the biggest thing with Omar, I just want to see him be healthy. Like, I know, obviously, we were kind of on the fence about him gaining weight, and they want him to be more of a run-stuffing two-way player as far as the D tackle, more so than like a strictly rusher guy. So not really surprised by him gaining weight. I'm just upset with the injury concern. I didn't want him to play on Friday. I don't know why he did in the first place, because that ankle injury has been bugging him probably majority of camp. So I know he's a warrior. He wants to go out there and play. Even after he banged it up, they went over there, taped him up, and he went right back out there and kept playing. So credit to him, but he's going to be a major key for us. So I do not want him playing. So that would be the biggest, if I had to say, question mark of the defense, that would be D tackle. You just want to see, like you say, consistent play. Somebody to give a secondary pass rush next to Chris to give him some help. I fully believe in George and Charles are going to turn it on when the lights are on. Mike Dane, I know he's in a contract year as well. Ashton Gelati, I'm going to give him some grace and see how he does after the bye when the rookies get more acclimated with the system. So the biggest guys for me that I'm keeping my eyes on defensively the most would definitely be Tillery and Omar for sure. If they can be consistent and be available players for us, we know how good Chris Jones is, but I just want to see those guys be serviceable. And then obviously, hopefully we could pick up a veteran maybe later on in the season, but that would be the biggest spot for me if I had to pick somewhere defensively.
All right. So then I guess my question would be, do we have, major offensive concerns? Because there's a lot of panic about the left guard situation right now. And obviously, Kingsley had his poor loss in the first game of preseason. We kind of talked about it a little bit. Kingsley then had, I would say, 2 bad snaps specifically in the second preseason game. And I'll give this PSA. Me personally, I do not agree with the way in which the Chiefs are handling this. I think that they have, done a disservice in not giving. Again, Creed and Trey, they can sit. You don't have to play them next to Kingsley if you're afraid of losing those guys. So but you need to give Kingsley more snaps, and honestly, you need to give Simmons more snaps, in my personal opinion. And we'll ultimately see how much they play in the third preseason game. So I think the Chiefs have done a little bit of disservice to this point, but there is an aspect of they are trying to adjust to a preseason game on the road in these first 2 weeks. And the fact that they're going to be dealing with a quote-unquote short week off of the quote-unquote bye week to start the year, as they're going to start the year Friday against the Chargers. So it's like it's a difficult thing, and Andy Reid's trying to manage it. So I don't know. That's my PSA as far as how they're handling. But there's a lot of panic over Kingsley that me personally, I don't. I understand where it comes from, but I think that it's a little bit unfounded and overblown in some respects from a few different angles. DG and CJ, how you guys feel about the left guard panic?
It's irritating seeing it from the fans because
Irritating.
This is the Chiefs' fault. This is their fault. The panic and the concern that you see from the fans' point of view is their fault because of how they handled him last year at the left, especially at the left tackle position. And now you move him to a different position, and now fans aren't going to give him the same amount of grace that they're willing to give. Say if he were to come in here at that position previously and played, so now it's just Now that's all you want to see up and down the timeline is Kingsley so bad at left guard and blah blah blah. Like the guy moved was predominantly played tackle. I don't know if he had any snaps at guard at BYU, but predominantly played tackle. And now you're asking him to move to a different position with different mechanics, a different mindset, and go out there and face some of the better interior pass rushers in this league. And we've seen how well interior pass rush has become over the last couple of years and how important that's become over the past couple of years. So, I think that there should be room for a little bit of grace. I think that he's been really effective, especially in the run game, which I think is going to help, as the season goes on here. There's some desire in his mechanics to be had in his passing, his pass protection at this point in time. But I think those things will come along. He needs the reps, he needs the time, and you're not gonna learn sitting on the bench. Like it just doesn't work that way. So for the people who are upset about him getting beat on certain reps, like that happens to a lot of people. I'm pretty sure Joe Thornton stepped into the league and he wasn't an all-pro as soon as he stepped into the league. There were growing pains there at first, So give Kingsley some time, give him some grace, and allow him to fail at this point. Sometimes you're gonna fail, As long as he's not losing every rep, I'm good with him being out there at this point.
Facts. I mean, it's an adjustment, obviously, for Chiefs fans. Normally, that's why I always have the slogan, you can't talk football with everyone. I know we all love this time of year and everybody's super excited, but some people like DG say like to be a little hyperbolic in their statements. So Kingsley's not going to get any grace from this fan base, unfortunately, DG. I'm with you. He should, but he's not, given the fact of his performance last year. So he's probably public enemy number one, even more so than Jawan Taylor was for the last couple of years. So anything Kingsley do is going to be news. So from a football
standpoint, Andy Reid's fault.
It is. I mean, it is. You put him in a position where he has to perform immediately. And people who are generally people who love football and really know the game know it's going to be an adjustment for Kingsley. Whether he dominated in the preseason or not, that wouldn't have proved anything what he's going to be in the regular season. It's going to be an adjustment to playing guard from playing tackle. It's an adjustment. You're on an island. You have more of a kick step at tackle. On the interior, you're dealing with guys immediately putting pressure in your face. So, and obviously we've had a standard of left guard here for the last 4 years with Joe Thornton. So going from Joe Thornton to Kingsley is a big drop-off. So obviously a lot of people probably would have been more comfortable if we signed a veteran from free agency, maybe signed somebody for the cheap before training camp. A lot of fans would have been more comfortable with that. But from a football standpoint, Kingsley's going to have to adjust, just like Josh Simmons is going to have to adjust coming off a knee injury. It's going to take time. And like DG said, I'm giving them that grace to see them go through the growing pains, learn from their mistakes, correct themselves. So obviously I'm not going to fully judge them until we're like maybe 4 weeks into the season. That's a good sample size, about a quarter of the way we can see how you are working in pass pro, how are your steps in the run game, are you getting your head across defenders, are they beating you across your face? More importantly, how are you handling twists and stunts? Are you communicating when blitz pick up? All those things. And you can't really get those answers too much in camp because it's a controlled environment. They're not really going full go. It's really just hit the player, then you're kind of letting up. And obviously preseason, you're not getting too many reps with each other. You maybe get a couple of series. So there's really not the answers you really want from a fan standpoint on the indoors, on the inside of the team, until you get full live reps, which is what we'll get here in about 3 weeks. So once we get to real football and we'll start getting these guys on tape and we can start critiquing them, which they're going to do overly and to the ultimate degree because it's Kingsley, but then we'll actually have to start having real answers. So for me, I'm in a wait and see moment, like DG said. I'm not really going to be too hard on them. It's going to be a tough schedule regardless. Even if, like I said, Kingsley went out there and looked dominant during preseason, I wouldn't really be too excited because those aren't the guys you're going to see week 1, week 2, 3, 4, and so on and so forth. So it's a completely different ball game when September gets here. So I think Kingsley's in a good spot. Get some guys really next to him that can really play. Obviously, Curry is the best center in football. We all have a high expectations for Josh. I think that's kind of like where the question marks are, just because you have 2 newer guys on your left side coming from Joe Thornton, who was one of the best in the league at his position. Now you have 2 newbies out there. So I think it's always just in case in there you have to wait and see. But don't forget, we have Jalen Moore if we need to break the glass in case of emergency. They could put that guard too if need be. Obviously, people don't like to hear it, but they love Caliendo as well as an emergency guy. So there's some options that they need to pivot off this, but I'm not going to critique Kingsley until I see real live reps on what he does. And can he correct himself, most importantly? When you make a mistake, does he do that same mistake next week? So.
No, can I say one thing too?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
You've seen the reps. He played against one of the best defensive tackles in
He's
the
had some good
league
reps
against Zach Allen. Like, we've seen him be able to do this, guys. It's nothing new. Like, yes, are there points in times where he's young and he's going to lose reps and a veteran's gonna just be better than him at that point? Yeah,
Sure.
that's gonna happen. But he's what, 20? He's 22 years old.
Yep.
You know,
23.
like, you haven't even hit the surface of what he could even be at this point. And now you've asked him, hey, don't play left tackle anymore. Move to left guard now.
For sure.
You know, which when we talked to Jeff Allen, said it's a different ball game when you move to the inside.
Absolutely.
You know, now it's a whole different mechanics, a whole different mindset, everything like that. So you gotta be willing to serve some kind of grace at this point. He's a kid, man.
Absolutely. It's gonna be an adjustment for sure.
It's gonna be an adjustment. I'm sorry that people hate that, and I'm sorry that some of you guys are so spoiled and just so used to great guard play. Thank Joe Tooney for that. But
Pro Joe.
Yes, that's not here anymore. I'm sorry, guys.
It's an adjustment for sure.
I would say, to say the least. So, this is interesting. So, obviously, I agree with pretty much everything DG said. I think that fans are overreacting. I think that the Chiefs, some of the things that I talked about last year, they did a complete disservice to themselves and then also Kingsley Suamataia by ruining his conference at left tackle. That ruined one of the options that they would have at that position moving forward. Either you stick with him at left tackle for the season and deal with the lows and don't have a quick hook. Obviously, they didn't. Or you just bench him to start the season, then bring him in later on. Ultimately, the way they did it ended up in which they got to the end of the season and they didn't have a good left tackle or a good left guard. So because they had to move Tooney out there and had Caliendo come in. So ultimately, I understand why people are concerned about him losing the way he is. The rate in which he's lost during preseason, not acceptable. Got to agree with that. But to Gigi's point, we have seen him play well in a game that mattered at guard and do a competent job. I'm not going to say he was a world beater. He wasn't. But he was fine. He was serviceable as far as his tape was concerned. Going against a really good defensive line that was fighting for its playoff life, which I guess people forget. The Broncos were literally fighting to get into the play.
They needed that game for sure.
And so, Kingsley did okay. It is what it is. Like, I understand some of the snaps look rough. I'm not going to take that away. But the reality situation is we've seen good run blocking from him. We've seen, other pass blocking snaps that were fine. Like, he still provides you the best upside at the position. And the reality situation is you got the other two options is Mike Caliendo, who is bad at the position. People are going to position it, I guess, like he wasn't. He was terrible. And the offense was trying to everything in their possible bodies to not allow that to affect it. And obviously got to the point of the Super Bowl in which they didn't have the choice, but it had choice. And so that's a bad option. And then you can go to Jalen Moore. The reality of Jalen Moore is you're dealing with the same hypotheticals as Kingsley Suamataia. He hasn't taken snaps at guard. He doesn't know what that's like in a real game. So you're dealing with a guy either that has one game tape of snaps at guard that was competent, or a guy that has no snaps at guard in a real game situation that we have no idea what it is. It's difficult for me to justify making that move just based on some preseason snaps. I understand. You want to evaluate it as we go into the season, fine. I think everybody should take a deep breath as far as this is concerned, because the reality situation is Kingsley Suamataia still has shown the ability to bring something to the offensive guard position that you don't have any other options as far as this is concerned. And I think the things that he's dealing with are also fixable. It's just technique things. And I truly do believe he can iron those out over the course of the season. The Chiefs got to stick with him. They can't panic and yank him because then they're going to be in the same situation. But that's just the way I look at it from that aspect. I think that they can do enough to deal with the downs that will happen in the start of the season and eventually get them to the point where they can, reap the benefits of sticking with them later on in the season. So that's kind of my general disposition as far as that's concerned. Other things that we had of note, the Commanders decided to put a starting running back on the block in Brian Robinson Jr. Obviously, they want to move him. And for reasons that I'm not entirely sure of, I guess they really like that room of Austin Eckler and Jacory Koski married. Sure. But yeah, apparently they want to move him at season the last year of his deal. What's you guys' level of interest as far as Brian Robinson Jr. is concerned?
I like B-Rob. I think it's kind of redundant, though. Physical back, can run in between tackles, solid vision, not amazing, not terrible, not an amazing pass catcher out of the backfield. It's kind of a repeat of Kareem and Pacheco, in my opinion. Not blazing fast speed. So he doesn't really bring something to the room that we already don't have, in my opinion. So I would love to have him if they can make the move. I wouldn't be mad at it. I would love if it was a choice between him or Elijah Mitchell, definitely taking B-Rob any day of the week for sure. But I'm not really running to the phone to make that move, honestly.
Yeah, it's not something I'm super like leaning into at this point. If it's the right deal, say if you can get a steal for it, then yeah, I would say Beach would, go ahead and pull the trigger on it. But I agree with CJ. I just don't think it. I think you've already kind of got that guy in your room already, and it just doesn't add much to it. I could see it if maybe they were dealing with the injury right now or something like that at that position, and they needed an extra guy. And you go out there and get a guy who's obviously played some significant snaps and had some success in this league. But yeah, I don't see it being something. He doesn't bring to me anything in the pass catching game for real. And yeah, not real blazing speed or anything like that. So just don't see fit for real with what he would change about the running back room.
I guess I have a little bit of a different perspective. I would certainly be interested if he's cut. Of course, I would sign him. If they were to want to do some type of late round swap, I would also be interested in that. If it would be Joshua Williams straight up for him, I would certainly do that because I think he's still on the outs as far as the cornerback room is concerned. They could do these cornerback depths. So I think that, yes, he is a bit redundant with Pacheco. I think he's a little bit better of a technical runner. And I say that he has better vision. I think he's a little better footwork wise.
Sure.
But I think Pacheco actually may be a little bit better receiving the ball right now, which is
maybe faster too, which is kind of crazy to say.
Yeah, just a little. I don't think he's an especially explosive back, but I think that he certainly provides more than Kareem Hunt and probably Elijah Mitchell at this current moment in time. To be perfectly honest with you, yeah. But it's redundant for Pacheco. I don't disagree with that. The thing is, I think you need to be redundant with Pacheco because at this point, you can't trust Pacheco to stay healthy. So if you're going into it, looking at it right now, and we were kind of going through this, last week, looking at the 53 man, it is Elijah Mitchell, Carson Steele, all those guys on the thing. To me, you can cut both as far as I'm concerned. But if you had another back to go with Pacheco and that was your 1-2 punch, I'd be cool with it. And you can still keep Kareem Hunt for his specific role and keep Rashard Smith for his, kind of special teams return. Comfortable, to be honest with you. / package play role, that's fine. I don't mind keeping him on the roster from that perspective. But I would be cool if that was the price. If it's a 6th for a 7th and / or Joshua Williams to get the job done, I'd be fine with that price because I think that it would be A, at the very least, useful depth, and B, maybe even provide a real 1-2 punch to help out to keep Pacheco fresher at the very least if he stays healthy throughout the season, then obviously have a suitable replacement if something does end up happening to him. So that's kind of where I fall on it as far as that's concerned. People talk about Jaleel McLaughlin as well. We'll see. I think that there are a multitude of different ways in which the team needs to be very active as far as the waiver wire is concerned. We do have our guest in the building, Mr. Jason Dunn. Let's see if we can bring him up. It looks like he's outside. Hello, Jason. How's it going, man?
What's up,
fellas?
JD, what up, boy?
Man, I don't know what to do. I'm sitting over here, man, and I'm kind of in a precarious situation at this moment. We had to do something emergency over here, man, with the family, man. But God is good, so I'm doing all right, man. I'm doing all right, brother.
All the time. Yes, he is. Good to talk to you, man. Hope everything's good with the family. Good to see you on. Welcome to Tell the Truth. So we did want to go through a few specific things that have you on. I will admit it was a little bit. We were so close to it being perfect because this is our technically episode 88, and we were so close to 89. But we almost made it.
My God!
We almost made it.
Still waiting.
I was
Perfect.
typing it in. I was like, oh man,
You should have just named it 89 anyway.
Anyway, just skip it. Nobody look at the number order. Don't worry about it. So look, I'm gonna start you off with the offensive side of the ball and kind of the major topic as we were just talking about for Chiefs Kingdom. What are your first impressions of Joshua Simmons and what he's been able to come into the Kansas City and do at that left tackle position here during preseason and camp? And then also talk a little bit about your comfortability level with Kingsley Suamataia making the transition over to left guard.
So yeah, I tell you what, Josh Simmons has been an absolute delight to watch him come in, and he actually cemented himself as our premier left tackle. He's just going to get better in this whole process. All I've seen from him from college to where he is now is what we've known he is, right? He displays power, great feet, stoutness, athleticism. And I said this, and I'm gonna keep saying this, and this is absolutely true. Josh Simmons was the best left tackle in the draft. There's no question about it. And so the only question that everybody had was, how is his knee going to be, right? That was the question. And so that was kind of our situation, taking him in. And he's done an amazing job. Now going to Kingsley. Kingsley has, moved from left tackle to left guard. He has some flashes of brilliance. I think he's doing it. He's a monster in the run game. We know that. Our offensive line is road graders, and I think that's more suited to what they do well. But Kingsley, he's got to work on his feet. He's got to work on his getting in shape. And when I say shape, I mean game shape. And so, what Romeo was saying last night, and I concurred, is there's a different type of shape that people get into, and Kingsley's not just quite there yet. He isn't. But he'll get there. He'll get there. He's got to get his feet together. A 10-play drive. Everybody's looking at these guys, and you either give them all the praise or you heap all the blame on them for 22 plays, what they showed. And I just think it's unfair, especially when you understand that this is a process to get to the place where you need to, where you need to be to start in the NFL. So he's still working on it, but right now his running blocking is because he's a big, powerful man. Is showing out. It's right now. It's the technique with his feet. It's him, like I said, getting his wind down. Him working through some of the pressures that he had to deal with. Starting, and that's all going to come with more reps. That's all it's going to do. So the more reps he gets, the better off he's going to be. And I think Andy Reid said the same thing. But that's how it works in the NFL. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And we want to, talk a little bit about, the ability to kind of help some of those guys out as far as, kind of the tight end position, because obviously this is a place that plenty about as far as we've seen a guy come up and a guy that I think has snuck up on a lot of people as far as his training camp is concerned. Robert Tonyan, who showed out during the preseason as far as that's concerned. The ability to use some heavy personnel sets, run the ball that plays into Kingsley Suamataia's strengths to help out this offensive line. What have you seen from Robert Tonyan being able to come in here and kind of solidify himself as tight end 3? And then have you seen anything from Jared Wiley that's kind of been a nice little, improvement aspect, something that's encouraging for what he can provide as a tight end 4 in this team? And how do you feel about that tight end room now going into the season?
Well, I tell you what, man, Robert Tonyan to me is he's another one that has shown that he's back. When I heard that we first signed him, I'm just like, man, we did an amazing job. He was a premier tight end when he was up there with Green Bay. Aaron Rodgers was throwing the ball, and I thought he came out. He was going to be the next guy as far as like in the tight end space in the NFL. And then of course injuries derailed him on that. So we got him right, and so we in a better place because we had somebody who has been there before. We got somebody who understands what it means to be a professional. I talked about how he was sitting over there when Scott Moore was going through his hard thing on the football field. Robert Tonyan was the first one to talk to him. He's the first one to address him. And this is what you're going to get from a guy who's a veteran guy, who's been around the block a little bit, who has some also a little difficulty, right? Some obstacles he had to, hurdle over. But Robert Tonyan, to me, man, he's if he's anywhere else, he's probably a starting tight end. That's just the reality. The problem is, he's behind Travis Kelce and Noah Gray. He's trying to reestablish himself. So with that being said, he's a great addition to what we do in the tight end room. Jared Wiley, he's another guy that I think he's a very talented guy, young guy. Same thing, injuries, he had to deal with that. I think he's still working himself back into that because of the injury. It's a slower process, but I think he'll get there. But I think right now, this what we've seen so far, Robert Tonyan has probably have the nod for tight end 3 on this team.
JD, with the news coming down about Rashee Rice and his looming meeting with Sue Robinson coming up on September 30th, we obviously know that he's probably headed to getting a suspension in the middle of the year. With that being said, between these two guys, Jalen Royals or Tyquan Thornton, who would you expect in that moment that Rashee is gone to be the guy that steps up for this team and has to play some significant snaps?
So you say, I think, Jalen Royals, Tyquan Thornton, I don't think either one of those guys lack any type of confidence. They don't lack any type of playmaking ability. If anything, I think what we've seen is a display of what they have, all their attributes. I think Jalen Royal fits right into what we do immediately. I think he's retained the information we needed to show it out there on the football field. And so coaches trust him. And he's just been making plays, and it just makes it's almost second nature. So he's already made his transition from college coming to the NFL, and it's like, yeah, coach, whatever you got for me, I can do. And I think Tyquan Thornton, obviously him being up there in New England and coming out here, you kind of have a different appreciation, right? From going to a different team, and this is a different scenario. So I think he'll strive too. So both of those guys, I think, can do a great job of fitting that role if Rashee Rice is out of it. But look, we're not missing anything. We're not, because we have capable tight ends, we got capable running backs. We got a number of guys that could do a lot of great things out there on the football field athletically to make guys miss and go hit their head on the goalpost. So those two names you named, Jalen Royals and Tyquan Thornton, can absolutely fit that bill.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. CJ, I know you had a question specifically about the whole roster.
Yeah. As far as I'll probably say overall, JD, as far as the roster itself, give me one guy that you think that's probably underrated that fans probably aren't talking about enough. Obviously, we know because we're more in tune with the roster as far as details. A guy that could break out this year, or a guy that's probably being slept on and not talked about enough.
I believe Shamari Commerce would probably be a guy. I think from everything I hear from Spags talk about him and how he's just, showing the giving him a little bit more responsibility and hearing him talking about how he has just captured that. I think he's going to be one of those guys that is going to be a joy to see. And I'll tell you, I'll give you another guy, not just him, but I do believe that running back wise, I think we're going to see the emergence of another Kareem Hunt. I think Kareem Hunt's going to be doing a great job. I think they 1-2 combination, him and Pacheco, both. I put it that way. I don't think everybody really gives the credit to our running back room as they should. I think they overlooked it, right? Because of the injuries and Kareem came in, he's out of shape. Nobody's running for 1,000, 1,200 yards. Well, I'll tell you what, you watch what these two guys do. And if you get these two guys just playing, get them in a good rhythm, they're going to be a problem for some defenses. They're going to be a real problem. So those are the three guys. I just gave you three. I know you asked for one, but
that's great. That's great.
I got my eyes on.
No, thanks. I would have threw Jaden in there too. I think Jaden I've kind of told DMac
Nope. That was unfortunate. CJ to cut out there. Obviously, he has talked a lot about, and we all kind of agree as far as what Jaden Hicks can bring to the table. And I'm glad you said that about Shamari Connor. And certainly, we've been talking about this for a bit about being able to move him a little bit more into that strict safety role and being able to use him there that we saw in his rookie year in which he really could excel. So him being able to be an impact player on the defense is going to be a massive piece of this from that standpoint. Sticking on side of the ball, obviously. Had the unfortunate news that Felix Anduke-Uzomah's 2022, or I should say 2025 season has come to an end before it even can really start. Obviously, the Chiefs 2022 first round pick. Obviously, a blow as far as the depth along the defensive line as far as that is concerned. I want to ask you first about how you feel as far as the defensive line kind of being able to be supportive to Chris Jones and obviously George Karlaftis. Mike Danna struggled last year with injury. Charles Omeni, who maybe didn't feel all the way back to where he was. Obviously, you got the two rookies and Omar Norman-Lott, who feels like he's gotten bigger since we saw him in college. Obviously, Ashton Gelati and also Jerry Tillery coming in, and Mike Pennell also mentioned as veterans, guys that want to contribute in that rotation. How do you feel about this defensive line and trying to support Chris Jones and George Karlaftis?
I tell you what, you give me a moment, okay? I'm actually, and I can talk about all of that. That's actually a very good question. That's a very good question because I actually want to get into this, okay?
Okay.
So give me 1 moment, okay?
All right, no problem.
Right, okay.
We'll get you back on, Jason.
All right.
CJ, what were you saying? I'll bring you back up, Jason. CJ, what were you saying just to end off your point about Jaden Hicks specifically?
Oh, yeah. Anybody that outside of Shamari that I think is due for a breakout year, I think is Jaden. I think the athletic ability is there. The ability to cover, the ability to recover is most importantly. We haven't really had that much athleticism on the back end. So I love his ability to cover tight ends, cover backs. We obviously know how physical he is in the run game, and we saw a little bit of that in the Pittsburgh game on Christmas last year on the Netflix game. So I think his ability to do both and be able to be so versatile for us. And like JD said, Shamari taking that next step of kind of being that Swiss Army knife in the safety room, you can kind of move him around. So that allowed Jaden and B. Cook to truly play deep safety. I think Jaden's in due for a big year. I think he's a guy that could get his hands on a lot of footballs this year, get a lot of turnovers, and kind of make guys fear coming across the middle like they did once when we had guys like Tyrann Mathieu back there. So I think Jay's another guy that's probably, we as Chiefs Kingdom, we talk about him, but I think the world's going to figure out how good Jaden Hicks is by the end of 2025 for sure.
Yeah, and so that it's an interesting thing. Obviously, they switched up the safety rotation a little bit for the second preseason game, in which they were giving Jaden Hicks a little bit more run, kind of deeper into the game, and they had Cook and Connor more in traditional safety sets. I'm fascinated to see how this ends up working because we kind of came into this with saying, all right, Cook's going to be the primary guy. Obviously, Jaden Hicks is going to be next to him because we think it's going to be a Jaden Hicks kind of breakout as a starter type of season. Shamari Connor was early run as far as being in that nickel, and now it seems like he's getting more of those safety snaps. Obviously, there's a lot in flux as far as the cornerback room because Noah Williams was a rookie, but we did see good snaps from him during preseason. Christian Fulham's been working back from that injury. I don't know if we're going to end up seeing him in the last preseason game, but it seems like at least he's tracking to be ready for the regular season. So that DB room is in flux, and it's going to be very fascinating to see how they end up using these guys week one because I could see a scenario in which it's Hooks and Cook. I could see a scenario in which it's Cook and Connor, and then Hicks is the third guy. Obviously, we could see Connor back in the nickel and see all three of those guys on a consistent basis. So that's something I'm certainly going to be watching it after week one, how they end up wanting to commit those guys. And honestly, it appears that this is going to be a dress rehearsal as far as the third preseason game, really. And Andy Reid said the starters are going to play. The Bears are also going to play their starters for what it's worth. The Bears coming off of what was a really impressive offensive series. Really impressive offensive series. Really performance in general versus the Bills in that their opening or their second preseason game, I should say. So at least we're going to get starters versus starters. But yeah, that DB room feels like it's a little bit more in flux than maybe initially had been thought. DG, what are your thoughts as far as the kind of safety rotation for this upcoming year?
Yeah, it's been kind of interesting, especially to watch this in preseason because I didn't expect Jaden Hicks to play that deep especially into the Seattle game. I think he played quite a bit of snaps in the Arizona game as well, too. I kind of just take it as maybe Spagnuolo trying to give him just more snaps to kind of still get his feet wet and the youthfulness kind of out of his system. at this point, knowing that he's going to have to play a heavier amount of snaps this year, being that the safety room is obviously a lot younger and a lot less depth at that position, especially now losing Deion Bush going into the year too. So, but yeah, I love the rotation as far as it being Hicks, Cook, and Shamari Connor. I preferably would like to see Shamari Connor more at a safety role than at that nickel kind of corner position. I think that he's versatile enough to where you have an injury or something like that where he can play that position for you for a game or two, but I don't want to see him for a full season being at that position. I just think that that's too much pressure to kind of put on him, and I think he's more of a natural safety. I will say that I'm kind of curious to see what Mike Edwards' role is going to be on this team. I'm not sure if it's more just so of age or something like that, but it kind of feels like maybe his snaps have kind of gone down just because of some of the younger guys shining a little bit more over him at this point. But I would like to see him on this team just as far as his leadership and what he can bring from a veteran aspect. So I'm not too worried about the safety room. I do think that Jaden Hicks is going to turn into a. I don't want to speak too soon. I hate speaking too soon, but I see all pro potential on Jaden Hicks.
It's there, bro.
I think that he can be a true ball hawk for them. I think that he can be a true enforcer for them. I think he can be one of those types of safeties where he can legitimately do everything that they need him to do at this point in time. So, yeah, I think the sky's the limit for that kid. As long as he keeps developing the knowledge of Spagnola's system and Spagnola continues to keep putting him in great positions, I think that he's going to make a lot of plays for this team. I can't wait to see what he does this year, especially in his second year. If you came into this year, and last year he led the team in interceptions. So to be able to do that in your rookie year with just the limited amount of snaps, I can only see it going up from here with getting a higher amount of snaps at this point.
Mm-hmm. I believe we do have Jason back. Jason, you in a good spot now?
There we go.
I am. Yeah, I'm in a good spot, man. Yeah.
Okay, good to hear. Good to hear. But yes, as we were talking about, as far as the defensive line and being able to get the contributions around Chris Jones and George Karlaftis from some of these veterans, and then obviously these two rookies as well, with FAU not focusing into that picture now for this upcoming season.
Yeah. So I think everything's going to work out well. Obviously, the line looks different when Chris Jones is in there playing. Okay. It's what we've seen, obviously, against the Seattle Seahawks. They opened up the floodgates, and they had everybody running the football. I said they let the manager let him tote the rock a little bit in preseason and let's see how he was going to do. But the thing is, man, look, hey, when Chris Jones is in there, he's a difference maker. He's the best defensive tackle in the league. No question about it. And so he's just so dominant that it's going to take 2 or 3 guys to block somebody like him. Not to mention you got Nick Bolton, Tranquil's going to be in there as well. So this is going to look different. It's a whole different dynamic with those guys. And that's why I was kind of saying that when you have these guys playing together in the system, they do really well. I think in preseason, what you want to see is more individual heroes. That's what you want to be able to see. If I'm sitting over here and I'm watching what a guy does, I want you to win your battle. And I think that's where you kind of look at with all the other guys, like you said, Charles Omenihu, did he win his battle? Ashton Gulati, did he win his? Norman Lott, he win his battle. And so what they were seeing is what guys could hold up if Chris Jones get hurt, if Nick Bolton something happens to him. What do you do? And I think this is a teacher moment. I'm sure they got their butts handed to them in meetings about, what they did not do. Some of the guys probably got a little grumbling that they was going to get cut. And look, I tell you, you don't put good film out there, it ain't the Chiefs that might just get rid of you. Other teams, they ain't going to call on you if you get cut. So that's where it's so important for guys when they're out there playing for them to do their job. okay, and just do your job well. So with that being said, look, FAU, young guy. I know everybody wants him to be this guy that he was displaying at Kentucky State, and what, for whatever reason, it just wasn't happening for him. And I think it was just, for some guys it takes a little bit longer, but FAU, I think, was kind of in his head, like he wants to do the move, but something's stopping him, right? Uh, and I was just hearing, what, Wake, I'm so glad that you called out. I guess it was a guy on Twitter. I don't want to say no names. They were talking about Kingsley, and then start talking about FAU being a pass rusher, and that he's a run stop. I'm like, well, he has to do all of that. That's your job. When you come into the NFL, you got to do it all.
3 down.
3 down. That's it. So I seen him in college, and what I had to do is, when somebody makes a statement, you know what I do? I go back and start looking over the film again. Like, hold on, did I miss something? So when I went back at the film. FAU was stopping the run. He was pass rushing. He was doing it all. That's why they got him there as the first round pick. That was it. Was the end of it. And so it's not like he can't do it. It's not like he was just a pass rush specialist. He was a disruptor as a defensive end, and that's why we got him here. Period and point blank. That's what it was. Now, Norman Lott, okay? Norman Lott only played a certain amount of downs in the run stopping, and he was more of a pass rusher. Get it. I got it. Look, put on a couple more pounds, but this is what we're employing you to do, okay? You got a whole different job when you come up here, right? You got a whole different demand, and that is okay. That's something he can learn. And so if Tennessee didn't want to use him that way, we're saying Spags and them seeing the potential and saying you can be used that way. And it's potential. Sometimes we get guys on potential, and that's all right. Teams do that all the time. And you never know what this guy's going to be unless you actually try him out in some things, in certain situations. So this notion that, Norman Lott is just a pass rusher, we don't need to put him in the 3 technique. Well, what are you going to put him in? What are you doing? We just going to wait until it's, pass it down to do it? Come on. That ain't how it works. So you got to do it all. Become everything to everybody, especially in Spags defense. And that's all right.
Absolutely. And look, I think that you hit on something, because this now applies to Kingsley. It applies to Omar Norman Lott, applies to Ashton, applies to all these young guys.
Yes.
Because the Chiefs have continued to win at the level that they have, they are always going to be picking at the end of these rounds. When you're picking at the end of these rounds, you only have access to a certain level of prospect as far as what the pre-draft evaluation comes. And we all agree, obviously, Josh Simmons, #1 tackle as far as the talent is concerned on tape. Extenuating circumstances end up putting him later into the draft and put him in a range for us to go get him. But in general, you're going to be taking guys that need a little bit of work, need some time to be able to develop into being those high impact players, whether it's Kingsley, whether it's guys like Omar Norman Lott, et cetera, et cetera. Chiefs fans have to be patient. You have to deal with these guys not being perfect from day one. You have to be able to accept those flaws and then teach them and allow them to continue to grow. You know why Travis Kelce became Travis Kelce is because he wasn't Travis Kelce to begin with. He was an incredibly athletic tight end that then grew into the tight end that he could be. Tyreek Hill was a running back that he had to be molded into a wide receiver because he couldn't. You have to give these guys, because of the exceptional traits that they have out of college that get them drafted highly, time to work on the other things to polish themselves into the position in which they could be high impact players. And I know the Chiefs are in every single year, because Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes, that we're trying to win a championship type of mindset. We don't have time for this. No, you have to give these guys time and deal with the growing pains early on so that you can reap the benefits later on into the season, later on into these guys' careers. So I thank you for making that point, Dunn, because it's something that I keep hearing, and it's frustrating because you have to deal with it. You have to deal with those mistakes. You do have to allow these guys to grow.
Yeah, it's a growing pain. Like you can't expect guys to come straight from college and just become a star. There's far and few between guys that do that, right? It's still a process to get them to that place, right? First, you want to get them immersed in the culture. You want to get them immersed in the scheme that you run, and then you want them to strive, okay? And I tell you what, if anybody has a problem, an issue with that, look, go back over some of our film that we talked about last night with Romeo Cornell. Romeo was absolutely emphatic that it takes processes for guys to get to where you want them to be. And so in that, You got to play within the scheme. Does that take time? Absolutely. And even if you do get a guy at the very end of the first round, at the early second, he's still a very good player. I mean, he's still taking him up there in that round. You know, it ain't like you're getting chopped liver in 6th or 7th round, right? You're still gonna find some good players. So I just really, oh man, it just burns me up when I hear people say that. I'm just like, I don't think people realize sometimes it's a process and it does take time. It does take time for that to happen. So, man,
Absolutely. It absolutely is a process. It was a process for a bunch of teams, and because we've had the success we have, that people don't want to have the patience for that process. But that's the reality situation. You have to deal with those struggles early on. DG, do you have something you want to chime in on?
I'm telling you, bro, the worst thing the Chiefs could have ever done was win Super Bowls. Like,
there you go.
All their minds just go out the
Tell
window.
Tell the truth. Hey, tell the truth.
The worst thing they could have done was give you 3 Super Bowls, and now everybody's like, nah, everybody's got to come in and be all pro.
It's not enough.
From the jump, yeah.
It's not enough.
From the get-go. It don't work that way, man. Like,
Patience, man.
This is coming from obviously OG, respect you. This guy that played, the highest level of them all. Like, it was right there. Right there.
And the thing that gets me, JD, is like all our fans, like when you ask them about Spags and ask them about our defense, because we remember the box up days when it was rough and we were blitz heavy and we didn't have the DB to cover. We were like, why we keep blitzing and why aren't guys developing and guys aren't getting better? And then ever since Spags been here since 2019, what has been the defense's trend from beginning of season to playoffs? They get better as time goes on. So how come like you have that type of patience with the overall unit of the team, but you don't have that type of patience with the player? It's the same thing. They're going to get better as time goes on, whether it be by the end of the season or their 2nd, 3rd, 4th year. Everything takes time to develop. It's not built in one day. So,
no, I see the dude on man. I don't like Twitter. I hate Twitter. I do. Because I'm sitting over like, I want to say something. I'm just like, why? Don't even. It's not even no point. And I see somebody's like, I guess we got to go back to blitzing again. I'm like, newsflash. We blitzing anyway.
Regardless.
Anyway with Spags. That's what he does. He does best. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, I don't know. So I'm on. Y'all got me over here telling the truth, right? I get to air my I guess my feelings out a little bit, man. It's a little funny to me. It's all right, but I like it, Get it out. So
that's good. We want to provide the platform for you to tell the truth and get those feelings out, man. So we got one more serious question before we get to some of the fun questions, and I'm gonna let you get on out of here. Really quickly, like obviously people are going to talk about the first 4 games, and this became a whole narrative because of the Rashee Rice news. Do you feel like that first stretch of games is kind of the toughest stretch for the Chiefs' schedule as far as this season, or do you see something kind of later on down the line that maybe you feel like is going to be a difficult string of games in a different portion of the season?
I think that we probably had the difficult part early, and to be honest with you, it's probably a blessing in disguise.
Facts.
Really. Because this is what you want. You want the hardest part now, so guys can get ready to, get used to it, get ready, and you can challenge guys. So when everything else comes later on, it's easier, right? Well, we didn't see the Ravens, we didn't see the Eagles, we didn't see the Chargers, and the Bears look like they might be a little something this year. So that's what you do. You challenge them guys early, so they can all get immersed into playing high level ball. Right? That's what you want to be able to see. It's a high-level performance, productivity. These first few games is a great indicator of where we're going to be. So I love our schedule. I just, seriously, I love our schedule because they're going to be forged in the fire. That's what you got to give them. It was like a couple of years ago, we was watching the DBs, and everybody like, why are we putting young DBs in? Man, put them in now.
You got to learn.
Yeah, let them learn. Right. If I throw you in the deep end, you're going to learn how to sink and swim. If I see a joker starting to paddle, I'm like, okay, he got it. He knows. He's going to try to survive with this. So let's throw him in the deep end early, man.
And I remember that was a 2022 year when we drafted Jalen, Trent, and Nazi, and the whole group, Josh, and everybody. And that was probably that group of year for receivers. We saw everybody. We saw Devontae Adams, Stephon Diggs twice, T. Higgins, Jamar Chase. We literally saw all the best receivers in the league. So by the time we got to January, there's nobody you haven't seen from a talent standpoint. So you had all the experience by then. So I completely agree.
That's right.
And
So
that 22. No, I was gonna say that 22 AFC Championship game is the one in which Jerry Sneed gets hurt in the third snap, and you got to have a DB room that's full of a bunch of rookies and say, hey, we got to deal with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, and you end up getting 2 interceptions off of Joe Burrow in that game and go to the Super Bowl. Obviously, that you go and win.
Yeah, can you imagine a guy that hasn't played, didn't get any clock, and you asking him to do that later on? Man, his knees gonna be shaking. Everybody gonna be able to hear it.
That's a
fact.
we saw it in the 13 seconds game the year before. We saw that with Gabe Davis, man. Look, absolutely.
Lord Jesus.
You had to go get that joke out of the closet somewhere. He gonna be like, where you at? You hide in the dark, like, oh man, I don't want to go out there today. No, so let them see it, so they know, like, oh man, we done did this before. Yeah, you good enough. You can do it. You can stand toe to toe with them, right? So I just think that's probably the better outlook at it, better way to look at it. Like, hey man, let's start it out, getting the hardest part of the schedule out right now. So.
Absolutely.
I love it.
So we're gonna get you out here on some fun questions. First of which, because we do ask, when we ever have a guest on for their first time, of course, their standard question: what was your welcome to the NFL moment?
Oh man, welcome to the NFL moment. It's probably training camp. I caught a seam route, and after I caught the seam route, man, the safety came in and just absolutely obliterated me. I mean, this is when you could, it was full hit and full pass, full board, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And this joker jumped out his cleats to hit me in my throat, and I hit on to the ball, and I got up. I'm like, Dad, God, like these suckers is hitting for real up here.
Yes, sir.
That was probably my welcome to the NFL moment, and then it was another time. It was actually against the Dallas Cowboys. This is when I was in Philly. And we put the ball to prime time. So Prime's,
Oh, shoot.
Yeah, Prime.
Know this thing.
Yeah. Well, listen, though. So Prime gets it. He starts that little skipping and all, and I'm just like, okay, Prime's fast, but I'm pretty fast myself. You know what I mean? I knew I had speed. And so I already started on my hawk, right? I'm already catching my angle. And I'm running him down, and I could feel all this in slow motion, and I'm like just rolling, opening up right now. And before I was about to hit him, man, the gunner had peeled back and absolutely laid me straight out. Yuck! And I was over there. I got hit over there on the Cowboy sideline, and I remember Charles Haley. I'm coming up. Charles Hayes looking at me. He comes down, looking and said, "Done." Ooh, oh, man. And they clowned me on the sideline. Everybody, oh yeah, look at you. So I remember I got up, and so the trainers run out. They run it out because you could tell he's like one of those. The crowd goes, "Ooh," when those hits, right? Like the whole crowd says it. And I'm just like, okay, good hit. So the trainers come to me. I said, "Look, man," I said, "do not touch me." I said, because if you touch me, people gonna know I'm hurt. Okay? I said, so just walk with me so I don't fall over nothing. Just walk me on off. And they did, man. And I remember, man, how many people called me after the game. And my boy was like, man, JD, who was that, man? We got to go get him, man. After this, man, they leave it alone.
He said, walk with me, but don't touch me.
Yeah, walk
just walk next.
Yeah.
I ain't gonna fall, but just walk next.
I ain't gonna fall, man. So that was another moment. And so, for me, it was gonna be a glory thing because I was gonna tackle Dion.
Tackle Dion.
Yeah,
Prime time.
Sure. Yeah.
I got him.
Yeah. So yeah, man, I've had those moments. So those two moments for sure. It was like kind of a welcome to the NFL.
All right.
Yeah.
DG, you got yours?
Two questions done.
Okay.
So you're part of one of the teams that ultimately made me fall in love as a Chiefs fan in the 03 Chiefs. I was 12 at that point in time when you guys finished 13-3 and went to go play the Colts in the playoffs. Also that year, though, I fell in love because Dante Hall was my favorite player. He's one of my all-time favorite players. My first question is, how how fun was it to watch him that year do all the amazing things that he did that year? And then my next question would be, are there any similarities between Dick Vermeil and Andy Reid?
Oh man. So yeah, man, that season, man, we were 13-3. We should have won it all. We should have definitely had a ring that year. You know, guys still
Trust,
talk about
I
it.
definitely
Boy,
cried through that playoff game.
Yeah.
oh my God, that team was good.
Oh man. Yeah, we were stacked, man. And I seen where we were ranked. Somebody put up like the top offenses of all time in the NFL, and I think we were ranked like 7th or 6th.
Yes.
The Chiefs were like 3 in a row, and I was just like, oh, our team was one of them. But man, I tell you, there's a rare category that guys get put in the NFL, and for me, that category is when I'm actually watching the game, what he's going to do when the ball's in his hand. Dante fit that bill for me.
Yeah.
Another guy I remember, like when I was like Barry Sanders, when you knew somebody who was electric, and you knew something was going to happen. You just knew it. And Dante had that air about him. He did. You just knew every time it was punted or kicked off, it was a chance to get ran back. You know what I mean? And even if he was down, we needed a touchdown. I'm like, oh, Tay got it. He got it. Shoot.
Yeah.
You know? So he was man, just a sight to see. You know, now I blocked for him on kickoff return quite a few times. I actually got fined because I laid somebody out. And I'm just like, why are you finding me? You know? I'm like, y'all seen Dante in film. Y'all see how he cuts back and stuff. Why y'all finding me for this? So, but that man was watching him was, like I said, was a delight. And then what was the other question? I'm sorry. What was it?
Are there any similarities between Dick Vermeil and Andy Reid?
Yeah. Okay. That's an easy one. Those guys, they care so much about their players. You talk to Andy, you talk to Dick Vermeil, that you're going to be giving it to you straight. They're going to tell you the truth, but also too, they're going to love you. Okay.
Right.
They're going to give you chances. They're going to give you opportunities. And so that's just who they are as men. And so it just obviously permeates himself as a football coach. But that's why I love him so much, is because Andy will give guys like a Kadarius Toney, he'll give guys a chance to really not make it. You know, I know everybody gets on Sky Moore, talks about guys and all, why we still doing. Andy loves these guys.
Facts.
And Andy trusts them. And he's like, look, I'm building relationships. So it's more than just football. He's building relationships. And I seen Dick Vermeil said the same thing. I remember we talked about that. Lawrence Phillips. Remember Lawrence Phillips? Vermeil brought him in. He wanted to build him up. He wanted to give him a chance and opportunity. And I know it hurt him, man, when Lawrence Phillips passed away. It hurt Dick a lot when that happened. But these two men, man, are just, they genuine people. They care about folks. And you can just tell about who they are. And it just comes out. So yeah, for sure. About some
Absolutely. That's awesome to hear, because one of the best parts of the new Kingdom documentary is about Andy Reid's journey, and kind of him talking about obviously how much he cares for his players. And they have Michael Vick on to talk about that from that aspect. And you could just tell, no matter what player you asked about Andy, that care for his players always comes through. And you could see in the way that people talk about Dick Vermeil as well, and the way that he cares for his players, whether obviously it's his first act in Philly, second act in St. Louis, his third act obviously in Kansas City. And it's kind of cool, the parallels for both of those guys. Their second stops obviously end up getting the championship. And I was just sitting there watching the Andy Reid portion of the documentary, just like, I'm so happy that Andy has had the chance to cement himself here in Chiefs Kingdom, in the National Football League lore, because of how he cares about his players, deserves to be properly, immortalized, because he is that great of a person and that great of a coach. And obviously Dick deserves that as well for what he's able to accomplish too. So that's cool that you made that parallel. Absolutely applies. All right. Lastly, before we get on out of here, we had asked this question previously, because we were very interested to see, but who was the funniest teammate that you played with your time, specifically in Kansas City, but you could say in general as well if you want to.
Oh man,
think
Funniest
I
play
gonna
I
say.
played. There's I had to name at least two for sure. Okay. One was Jared Allen. Okay.
Yeah.
And the other guy was Donnell Bennett.
Okay.
Yeah, DB man was funny. I'm just talking about just natural comedy. You know what I mean? Like you just see a guy. You know how you see a guy, you just start laughing. You just know
Don't
immediately.
even say
He's already
nothing.
thinking. He's already thinking about 10 things to say. You're just like, come on, man, what you got for me today? You know? Yeah.
You just know
So
something funny about to happen.
you know something funny about to happen, man. You know, and the way he puts things. You know, somebody they have a talent to put things a certain way and nobody else can see it. That's Donnell Bennett, man. So yeah, because like when I first got to Kansas City, me and Donnell, you know, we always say what's up. You know, when you first get there, you know, you trying to look tough. You know, everybody, you trying to bring everybody out. So one day we were in the training room, and he's getting treatment on his knee. I'm getting treatment on my knee, and he's start busting out laughing. And I turned him like, "What's up, DB?" He said, "JD." He said, "Man, when you first got here, man, I thought we was getting guys out of prison." I was like, "What?"
Hey, yo.
Right. He said, "Man, when I first seen you, man, you know, you had the little, you know, the DC fade, you know what I'm saying? You know, your beard was going all crazy." He said, "Man, I'm looking at you like, man, we damn bad, man. We getting guys out of prison now." I'm like, but that's how he would be like that all the time, man. It would never fail. It would never fail. He'd always have something for everybody. So
That's great. I know that's a big thing, you know, throughout the locker room, throughout a long season, just to have those little moments of levity. I know that goes a long way for sure. So shout out to Jared Allen, shout out to Donnell Bennett, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Hall of Famer,
right.
Jared
Hall
Allen.
of Famer, Jared.
Jared Allen. That's right. Yeah.
Well deserved. Well deserved. CJ, you got anything before you go ahead and get out of here for JD?
Nah, JD, big bro, you know, I appreciate you ever since we met. You know, it's always love anytime we see you. Anytime you need anything, you call the phone. We always there for you, bro. You know, it's family over here.
Hey, listen, man, I always tell you, man, I get to Kansas City, I got a little time, man. We got to break bread. You know how it is. And I said, we got to get it together, man, collab. You know, I mean, that's you know, that's who I am. So I know that's who y'all are too. So, man, we'll just keep this thing rolling, man. And much success to you all. Man, y'all just out here killing it. You know, I apologize. I'm not in my natural setting, or, you know, normal setting.
Nah, you good.
So,
it's all good.
Yeah, but I appreciate y'all guys.
We on your time, OG.
We appreciate you either way.
Hey, man. Hey, the feeling's mutual, my brother. The feeling's mutual, my brother. So
absolutely, bro.
Let's do it again.
Absolutely.
We're gonna have to do it sooner rather than later, man. We appreciate you for coming on, tell the truth. We definitely appreciate it big time, man. We'll definitely have you back soon. Again, for those that do not know, Chief Concern, Jason Dunn, they just did a great interview with Romeo Cordell. There we go. Almost didn't get it out. Make sure you guys go over there and check it out, man. But again, JD, thank you for your time. For DG, for CJ, man, peace out. Go Chiefs.
Appreciate y'all, brothers, man. All love to y'all.
Thank you, JD.
All right.